Chapter 1. Panic. Kijyl wakes up, realizing it was nothing but a wet dream. He lay in bed, confused, asking himself, "Why the hell can't I stop thinking about you, princess?" He then hears a knock on his door and answers, "Come in." The door is opened, and Zan comes into the room and says, "Decided to sleep in today, Captain?" Kijyl yawns and responds, "What do you mean, sleep in?" Zan laughs and says, "It's nearly noon, Kijyl. If you don't hurry and get up, you'll miss the whole day." Kijyl quickly gets up, and Zan leaves the room so he could get himself ready. A few minutes later, he goes out to deck and runs into Quinn, who greets him saying, "Morning, Captain." Kijyl greets him back and asks, "How is Gur doing after the whole siren near-death experience?" Quinn smiles and answers, "All things considered, he's doing pretty well, Captain." Kijyl puts his right hand on Quinn's shoulder and responds, "Good. Tell him I'm glad he's doing well." Quinn responds, "Aye, Captain." Before walking away, Kijyl asks Quinn about Akiya, and he tells him he hadn't seen him yet that morning. Kijyl laughs and says, "That lazy ass thinks he can skip his chores. I'll get his ass up." Kijyl makes his way to Akiya's room. When he gets there, he knocks, but there's no answer. As he's about to leave, he hears heavy breathing and cries, so he decides to go in and check on Akiya. When he went in the room, he saw Akiya sitting on the floor at the left corner of the room, all curled up. As he approaches him, he notices tears coming down Akiya's cheeks. The room was dark, hence why he didn't notice the tears to begin with. He then kneels down in front of Akiya and asks if he's okay. Akiya doesn't answer, but lunges at Kijyl, hugging him, and says repeatedly while violently shaking and crying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe." Kijyl slowly puts his arms around his body, hugging him, and says, "You have to try to calm yourself down. Try focusing on one point in the room and empty your mind of any other thoughts." Akiya grips Kijyl tightly and says, I can't." After a few minutes, Kijyl tries figuring out the source of Akiya's panic, asking, "Okay, try telling me what threw you into this state so I can help you." In a breathy tone, Akiya answers, "I dreamt about him again. The day I left home. I'm afraid he'll hurt me again. I'm scared." Kijyl tightens his arms around Akiya's body and says, "No one's going to hurt you. Whoever it is that hurt you won't get close to you again. I got you, princess." Chapter 2. Green-eyed. After a few minutes, Akiya calms down and stands up to pull himself together. With his back turned, Akiya blurts out to Kijyl, "Sorry for bothering you with my problems, but thank you." Kijyl walks towards him and stands beside him. He then puts his left hand to his right cheek and says, "Come on, princess, you weren't bothering me." With a smirk on his face, Kijyl says, "Besides, I was glad to be of service." Akiya blushes, letting out a subtle laugh. Kijyl couldn't help but notice Akiya's smile, that as well as his beautiful eyes and supple lips, that seemed to enchant him like a siren's call, which drew him closer and closer to Akiya, touching his hair until their noses brushed against each other and their lips barely touched. Akiya stuttered nervously, unable to muster up any words. As Kijyl played with Akiya's hair, dangling it around his fingers, he said, "You know, princess, ever since you arrived, I can't seem to get you off my mind. Everything about you makes me crave more of you." Before anything else could be said, they were interrupted by a loss of stability as the boat rocked back and forth, knocking them over. As the boat's movement calmed, a worried Kijyl asks, "Are you okay, princess?" Akiya tells him he is okay, and they both get up and walk out to deck. As they get on deck, Zan notices Kijyl and decides to approach him. As he walks towards him, he notices Akiya behind him and stops, his fists clenched as he threw a hostile glare towards Akiya before choosing to walk away. As he walks away in anger, he doesn't look ahead and runs into Gur, who notices he's upset and says, "Whoa, what's going on with you?" Zan ignores him and keeps walking. Gur isn't having it and runs after him, saying, "Wait up, talk to me, man." He catches up to Zahn, puts his hand on his shoulder, forcing him to stop, and asks, "What's going on, Zahn?" Zahn looks at him and blurts out, "Why did that boy have to be on board?" A confused Gur says, "You mean Akiya?" Zahn answers in a furious tone, "Yes, I can't stand him, always all over Kijyl." Gur laughs and answers, more like Kijyl's all over him. In a fit of anger, Zahn yells, "What's up with Kijyl? Why is he so interested in that boy?" In a joking tone, Gur says, "Akiya is pretty attractive, to be honest. What, are you jealous or something?" Zahn responds, "I just can't stand seeing Kijyl close to him, the way he looks at him. He's never looked at anyone that way, especially not me." Intrigued, Gur asks, "In what way do you think he looks at Akiya?" Zahn glances at him and answers, "Kijyl looks at him like he cares, but not in a regular way." Gur looks him in the eye and says, "Zahn, Kijyl only cares about Kijyl. He's never taken the notion of love seriously. I doubt he'll star now."
Zan says, angrily, "Well, Princess seems to be the exception. I wish he'd die." Shocked Gur answers, "That's enough. You shouldn't wish death on anyone. Don't be green-eyed. It will lead you to a dark path." Zan gasps and says, "What? Green-eyed?" In a serious tone, Gur responds, "It means don't be envious. You mustn't be envious. It will lead you nowhere good. Come on, we have work to do." Chapter 3. Array. A few moments later, Quinn approaches them, interrupting their conversation. He tells them Kijyl wants to meet with the entire crew, and all three of them make their way to the front deck. Kijyl prepares the crew to venture into the island they happened to come across that morning, saying, "Listen up, men. We are low on supplies and still have a month's trip left to reach the nearest village, so we need to gather supplies from the island. We will under no circumstances separate from each other. We will stay in an array. Understood?" The crew responded, "Aye, Captain." Afterwards, everyone prepared themselves, getting their weapons and packing rations. They then make their way off the ship onto the island. Once on the island, Kijyl says, "Seeing that this is a big island, we should separate into groups to cover more ground. Ger and Quinn are one group. Akiya is with me, and..." As he finishes organizing the groups, he instructs Zan to remain on the ship so it's not left unattended. Before going their separate ways, Kijyl says, "We'll meet back here by evening." As Akiya and Kijyl walk in an awkward silence, Akiya decides to break the ice and asks, "Since we're here on our own, and it's going to be a long day, how about we get to know each other better, Captain?" Kijyl smirks as if saying yes, and Akiya asks, "Well then, you already know my background, so how about you tell me about yourself, if you want to, that is." Kijyl sighs and begins talking. "Let's see. I grew up in Windmere Village. My father was a baker, and my mother, well, she left when I was born, so it was just me and my old man." Akiya puts his right hand on his left shoulder and said, "I'm so sorry, Kijyl." Kijyl brushes it off, saying, "Don't worry, I became numb to that a long time ago." He then continues, "Anyways, I helped my old man in the bakery on my Sapir time, but I also worked as a squire for the prince of the royal family of Windmere. I had to bring in extra money."
Chapter 4. Except You. Akiya calls out to Kijyl, trying to get his attention, and notices tears coming down his cheeks. Worried, he stood in front of him, grabbed his shoulders, and lightly shook him, saying, "Kijyl, Kijyl, snap out of it!" Kijyl quickly regains his focus, wiping his tears, and says, "Sorry, was just, daydreaming." Skeptical, Akiya asks, "Are you sure you're okay?" Kijyl nervously answers, "Yeah, I'm fine." Akiya senses something is off, but decides not to push Kijyl. They resume their search for supplies, yet again in awkward silence for a few minutes. Kijyl then asks, "Princess, if you don't mind me asking, what exactly happened to you? How did you end up on the street?" Akiya gets noticeably nervous, and Kijyl quickly says, "I shouldn't have asked. Sorry. I'm just worried after seeing the way you were this morning. Forget it asked."
Surprised at Kijyl's words, Akiya can't help but blush, thinking to himself, does he actually care about me? He then grabs Kijyl's right arm and says, wait, Kijyl, I want to talk about it with you, if that's okay. Kijyl looks at Akiya and answers, okay, as long as you're sure you want to talk about it. As they walk, Akiya begins telling Kijyl his story. I was engaged to marry the daughter of a nobleman. The thing is, I had a relationship of sorts with my fiance's brother, Yasir. Kijyl, immediately realizing what Akiya meant, calmly says, you mean you had a sexual relationship with this Yasir? You don't have to be embarrassed, princess. I won't judge. We all have our demons. Akiya gives a slight smile and continues, I told Yasir wouldn't be sleeping with him anymore since he was married, and I was going to marry his sister. Safe to say, he wasn't happy about it, and threatened to tell my father that I'm gay if I didn't satisfy him. Kijyl questioned, so your father didn't know you... Before he could finish, Akiya interrupts and says, no. Continuing, he, pushed me against a pilar, and he pulled down my pants, and, he forced himself inside me. I managed to pull him off and knock him out, and then I got my things and left.
Kijyl stops walking and looks at Akiya speechless, not knowing how to react. Akiya, on the other hand, attempts to act strong, saying, it's all in the past now. I moved on. I'm okay. Noticing he is putting up an act, Kijyl hugs Akiya from behind, wrapping his arms around Akiya's and said, it's okay not to be okay. You don't have to be strong, princess. You're allowed to hurt. Akiya breaks down sobbing as Kijyl holds him tightly. He then brings his hands above his chest, reaching to Seth and tightly holding on to Kijyl's hands. As he cried, Akiya said, I don't know that I'll be able to let another man touch me again. When we slept together, I was drunk. I wasn't thinking clearly. Being sober, aware, just the thought of being touched by another man is unbearable. Any other man except you. Akiya turns around, looks Kijyl in the eye, and kisses him. He then quickly pulls back and says, I'm sorry. Kijyl calmly moves his body closer to Akiya's and says, it's okay, princess. Kijyl leans in closer, repeating, it's okay, and gently kisses Akiya. Chapter 5. Distant.
For a brief moment, Akiya gives in and kisses Kijyl back. However, he ends up panicking and pushes him away. He then takes a deep breath and says, okay, I think we should stop here. It's better if I go back to the ship. Kijyl respects his decision and says, you're right, I'll finish gathering the supplies. Later that night, Akiya lay in bed thinking, what the hell was I thinking? Kissing Kijyl. Stupid. I just don't understand what I feel for him. But that doesn't matter. Quinn told me Kijyl only cares about Kijyl, and I can't go through another bad experience with a man. I can't handle another disappointment. There is 1 month left for me on this ship. It's better if I avoid him from now on, before I end up doing something stupid again. For the remainder of his stay, Akiya kept his distance from Kijyl. He avoided making conversation or running into him the best he could, spending most of the time in his bedroom. His interactions with Kijyl didn't go beyond a simple hi when they happened to run into each other. Akiya felt bad for avoiding him, but he felt he had no other choice. He was going through so much, having to deal with the trauma of his assault, and just couldn't grasp the idea of letting another man in his life and being able to trust. Meanwhile, Kijyl was distraught, not knowing what to do, and called Gur to his room for advice. "Hey, Gur, can we talk?" Gur put his arm over his shoulders and said, "Of course, Captain. What do you need?"
Chapter 6. Make a move. Meanwhile, Kijyl was distraught, not knowing what to do, and one night called Ger to his room for advice.
Hey, Ger, can we talk?
Ger put his arm over his shoulders and said,
Of course, Captain. What do you need?
They both sit on the bed, and Kijyl explains.
I need advice. Akiya and I kissed yesterday, and since then he's been avoiding me, and I don't know what to do.
Ger sighs and says,
Captain, do you have any idea why Akiya is avoiding you?
Being careful not to betray Akiya's trust, Kijyl answers,
Well, he was hurt by someone in the past. I can't really tell you more than that.
Ger looks at him and says,
Perhaps, if he was hurt before,
he's afraid opening up will lead him to getting hurt again. I mean, you're not exactly known for caring about anyone but yourself. No offense, Captain.
Kijyl laughs and responds, None taken. You're right. I never really cared about anyone's feelings, but Akiya is different. I can't help but care, and not even in a normal way.
Ger makes a serious expression and says,
If you have feelings for him, Captain, serious feelings, you should tell him. He's leaving in 2 weeks. Talk to him before it's too late.
Kijyl gets up and asks,
How could I ask him to stay when I don't even know what the hell I feel?
He takes a deep breath and continues,
I've never even been in an actual relationship, so how do I know I could be in one and not hurt him?
Ger gets up, walks towards the door, and says, If you really care for him, then you can commit to a relationship and not feel the need to sleep around. No offense. Before leaving the room, he says, You have 2 weeks, Captain. I suggest you figure things out as soon as possible, because you will regret letting him go if he's truly in your heart.
Chapter 7. I need you.
That night, unable to sleep, Kijyl lay thinking about Ger's words. He questioned, Should I make a move? Do I have the right to keep you here, Princess?
Kijyl laughs, thinking, Wow, since when have I been such an emotional person? I can't ask him to stay for me. I have to let him go. Kijyl spent the night awake with all those thoughts, confused. After a month had passed, in the early morning, Akiya packed his things and made his way to deck. There, Kijyl and the crew waited to send him off. He thanked all the crew, telling them, You guys became a real family to me. Thank you for everything, and for being a pain in the ass. They all laughed, getting emotional. Akiya then faced Kijyl and said, I'm glad I met you, Captain, and I wish you the best. Thank you. As he made his way to exit the ship, a subtle smile could be seen in Zan's face. However, before he could leave the ship, with tears in his eyes, Kijyl yelled, Wait! Don't go, Princess! Akiya turned to him, surprised, with overwhelming sadness, and said, Kijyl, But before he could say, Kijyl interrupted and said, Please, just hear me out. The last 2 weeks I spent day and night depressed knowing you were leaving. All I could ask myself, why I didn't want to let you go. He walks towards Akiya and continues, I know that I have no right to ask you to stay, and I had come to the conclusion that I wouldn't. However, I can't let you go without telling you that I need you. The thought of being without you is so painful, it made me feel like I wanted to die. I need you in my life, by my side, Akiya, so please stay with me. Elated with Kijyl's words, Akiya is in tears. He stands in front of Kijyl, putting his right hand to Kijyl's left cheek. He then leans his forehead on Kijyl's and says, I need you too, and the truth is that scared me. But now I realize that needing someone shouldn't scare me, because it means that person is what has been keeping me going. You kept me going. You gave me a reason to move forward. Kijyl displays a bright smile on his face, and they share a passionate kiss. Chapter 8. I'll stay. After the kiss, Kijyl looks at Akiya and asks, "Does this mean you'll stay?" Akiya hugs Kijyl and answers, "I'll stay." Kijyl smiles as a tear comes down his right cheek, and the crew cheers. All except Zan. Later that night, the crew celebrated with games and drinks. Kijyl and Akiya, on the other hand, lay in bed together, Kijyl on the right side of the bed and Akiya on the left, both facing each other. As they talked, Akiya asked, "So, Captain, you really weren't planning on stopping me from leaving?" Kijyl sighed and answered, "No, but I'm glad I did, because I get to spend more time with you. I can't imagine you not being here with me, Princess." Kijyl immediately turns red and turns away in an attempt to cover his own ignominy and says, "Sorry, that was tacky as hell." Akiya can't help but break into laughter. Kijyl looks at him, smiling nervously, and says, "Hey, don't laugh." Kijyl glares at Akiya for a second as he laughs, and can't help but move his face towards Akiya's until their noses touch. He rubs his nose against Akiya's, and Akiya says, "That was tacky, but I loved it." Kijyl smiles, and they kiss. As they kiss, Akiya gently rolls Kijyl onto his back and lays his body on Kijyl's. Caught off guard by this, Kijyl says, "Wait." Akiya gets off, and they both sit up on the bed. Confused, Akiya asked, "Is something wrong?" Kijyl held his hands and answered, "No, everything's fine. Are you sure you want to do this?" Still confused, Akiya says, "What? I want to. Do you not want to? I mean, it's okay if you don't." Kijyl hugs him and answers, "It's not that. It's just that the first time we were intimate, we were both drunk. We weren't in control of our actions, and you couldn't say no. I know what you've been through, and I don't want to do something that will trigger you or hurt you or..." Akiya interrupts him and says, "Kijyl, it's okay. I want this. I want you. Of course I'm terrified. After what happened to me, just the thought of being touched was excruciating. But after meeting you and falling for you, I longed for your touch. Kijyl, I want you to make love to me for the first time." Akiya blushes, and touched by his words, Kijyl smiles with tears in his eyes. He then leans in close and gently kisses Akiya's lips. As they kiss, they remove each other's shirts. Kijyl then lifts Akiya so that he's in a top position on his lap, sitting facing him. He proceeds to gently kisses Akiya's neck, making him blush and breathe heavily. Chapter 9. Honey. Kijyl slowly kissed Akiya's body, going lower and lower. He unzipped Akiya's pants and gently slipped his right hand in. Akiya's breathing grew heavier as Kijyl moved his hand back and forth. Akiya grabbed tightly at Kijyl's back as he sped up. Barely able to speak, Akiya muttered, "Kijyl, don't stop." Kijyl whispered, "Look at me, Princess. I want to see the look on your face as you surrender and can't hold back." He moved his hand faster, making Akiya moan with pleasure. When Akiya finished, he placed his hand on Kijyl's crotch. Kijyl stopped him, smiled, and said, "No. Tonight I'm spoiling you. You can make it up to me next time." Akiya smiled and kissed him. Kijyl laid Akiya on his back. "I'll be right back, Princess." He returned moments later with a jar of honey. Curious, Akiya asked, "What are you going to do with that, Captain?" Kijyl grinned. "Just wait and see. I promise you'll enjoy it." He poured honey across Akiya's legs, then set the jar down. He began licking the honey from Akiya's lower leg, taking slow, deliberate strokes up his thighs. When he reached Akiya's inner thigh, Kijyl paused. "You're already hard again. That was fast." He poured more honey between Akiya's legs. Akiya moaned. Kijyl asked playfully, "Does it feel that good already?" Akiya replied, "Just the thought of what you're going to do. It's turning me on." With a smirk, Kijyl said, "Maybe I should leave you wanting more tonight. I love that expression on your face." Akiya teased, "You can't make me yearn for it and not deliver. I'll just handle it myself if you don't."
Are you challenging me, princess? Akiya leaned in, seductive.
I am. Will you face this challenge, Captain?
Without another word, Kijyl grabbed Akiya's legs, pulled him down the bed, and lifted them over his shoulders. He lowered his mouth between them. Akiya's breathing spiraled out of control. His moans turned uncontrollable as Kijyl started sucking harder and harder. Chapter 10. If you stopped, I'd have to kill you. When they were finished, Akiya leaned in and kissed Kijyl. Kijyl smiled and asked, "How do you feel?" Akiya returned the smile. "Happy. I'm feeling very happy right now." He hesitated before continuing. "Kijyl, I don't think I'm ready to go any further, if you know what I mean." Kijyl cupped his cheek gently and said, "That's okay. I understand." Akiya looked away. "You're really not upset about it. I insisted, and now I'm..." Kijyl interrupted him. "Princess, you shouldn't feel bad about not being ready. I love that you care so much about my feelings, but you're allowed to be selfish here. Your feelings matter the most right now. I can wait." Akiya smiled again. "I love you." Kijyl hugged him close and replied, "I love you too, princess." As Kijyl leaned in for another kiss, Akiya raised an eyebrow and asked teasingly, "Are you ever going to stop calling me that?" Kijyl grinned. "Should I?" Akiya flipped him onto his back and sat on top of him. "No, too late now. I'm attached to it." Kijyl laughed. "Well then, I'll keep using it." "Good," Akiya said with a mock-serious expression. "If you stopped, I'd have to kill you." Kijyl burst out laughing. "Wow, remind me never to piss you off, princess." Chapter 11. Any man would be lucky to have you. Outside the bedroom door, Zan stood still, listening as Kijyl and Akiya laughed and shared quiet moments. A tear rolled down Zan's cheek, but that sadness turned to anger, and he punched the wall. Kijyl and Akiya heard the noise and got up to investigate. Zan stood frozen in place, overwhelmed by his emotions. Just then, Gare appeared and grabbed him, pulling him away before Kijyl could see. On the deck, Zan pulled his arm away violently. "What the hell do you want?" he snapped. Gare paused. He could see the tears streaming down Zan's cheeks. He gently placed a hand on Zan's shoulder. "Are you okay?" "No, I'm not," Zan replied, his voice breaking. "Every time I see Kijyl with him, a piece of me breaks. Why couldn't he ever look at me that way? Why, Akiya? Why?" He wiped his face with the back of his hand. "I've always been there for him. Always. Through everything. And he never looked at me like that. Akiya shows up for one day and suddenly Kijyl's in love? That's bullshit." Gare looked at him with compassion, then stepped forward and pulled Zan into a hug. Zan was stiff at first, caught off guard, but didn't pull away. He needed it. Gare took a deep breath. "It's a strange feeling, isn't it? To love someone completely, only to watch them shift their eyes to someone else. It's like a sword to the heart." Zan sobbed as Gare continued. "Every laugh, every shared moment between them feels like a betrayal. You try to suppress the jealousy, the pain, but it always lingers. It follows you into every thought." Zan's voice cracked. "I questioned my worth. I did everything to earn his attention. Maybe I should have accepted his invitation that night." Gare raised an eyebrow. "What invitation?" Zan looked away, embarrassed. "He was drunk, really aroused. He asked me to help him take the edge off. I said no, but I guess Akiya didn't." Gare's expression hardened. "Kijyl's an idiot. Sure, you can't help who you love, but he's a fool for not realizing what you mean to him." Zan smiled sadly. "I agree, he is an idiot, and
Before he could finish, Ger interrupted. Any man would be lucky to have you. Those words stunned Zan. Without thinking, he leaned forward and kissed Ger.
Chapter 12. Desire. As their lips met, Ger's eyes widened in shock. His body froze, unable to move, unable to think. A few seconds later, Zan pulled away and stepped back, nervously watching Ger's reaction. He looked down in embarrassment, unable to meet Ger's eyes. Tears streamed silently down Zan's cheeks. He took a deep breath and, still looking away, said softly, "I'm sorry. I've been miserable for a while now. Seeing Kijyl with Akiya every day, it hurts so much. And you've been there for me through all of it." Ger gently wiped the tears from Zan's cheeks. Zan whispered, "You're the only one who noticed I wasn't okay. Kijyl is my best friend, or at least he was, but it feels like I don't matter to him anymore." Looking up, Zan met Ger's eyes and said, "Today, you told me I was worth it, when I felt worthless for so long." Ger blinked as Zan added, "That's why I kissed you, because you make me feel like I matter." Curious, Ger asked quietly, "How do I make you feel?" Zan smiled shyly. "You make me feel like the world is at my feet, like I'm the most amazing person in this whole world." He hesitated, his voice dropping. "You make me feel wanted." Ger leaned in slightly, their lips nearly touching. "I really awaken all those feelings in you?" he whispered. Zan nodded. "You do. Quinn is very lucky. I admit, I envy him." Ger's face flushed red. His cheeks burned with heat, his eyes squinting as if trying to hide it, but a small smile still broke through. He gently raised a hand to Zan's cheek, brushing a finger across his lips, seeking permission without a word. As Ger moved closer for another kiss, their attention snapped to the sound of footsteps. A voice called out, "Ger? Are you out here?" Ger's eyes widened in panic. "Oh no, Quinn!" Zan and Ger jumped apart just as Quinn approached them. When he reached them, he asked casually, "Hey, what are you guys doing out here at this hour?" Smiling nervously, Ger replied, "I was just giving Zan some advice about a few things." Quinn placed a hand on Zan's shoulder and asked gently, "Is it about Kijyl?" Zan said nothing. He lowered his head and stared at the ground. Quinn sighed and said softly, "Sorry, I shouldn't have asked. But for the record, I think Kijyl is an idiot for not seeing how you feel." Zan gave him a faint smile. Quinn turned to Ger and added, "Come on, let's get some sleep. We've got a lot to do tomorrow." They walked away, leaving Zan alone on the deck. That night, Ger lay in bed, unable to sleep. Quinn was wrapped in his arms, sound asleep. Ger stared down at him and thought, what the hell was I thinking? If Quinn hadn't shown up, I would have... Damn it. Tears welled in his eyes as he continued, "I love Quinn, I do. I can't hurt him, this isn't fair to him." He pulled Quinn closer and whispered to himself, "I love Quinn, I love him." Meanwhile, in his room down the hall, Zan lay in bed, lost in thought. He laughed bitterly and whispered, "What's wrong with me? Throwing myself at the first guy who makes me feel good about myself. How pathetic." He sat up and slid a finger across his lips with a faint smile. "But that kiss, I liked it. And I wanted more. I still do." He shook his head and slapped his cheeks to snap out of it. "What am I thinking? I can't do that to Quinn. I won't take the person he loves from him, like Akiya did to me." He sighed and looked down. "Besides, I don't love him. He's just everything I needed Kijyl to be." Then he smiled again. "He's so sweet, it's easy to get carried away." Chapter 14. On the same page. That night, both Zan and Ger slept with undeniable doubt in their hearts. The next morning, Ger knocked nervously on Zan's door. Zan opened it awkwardly. "Come in, we need to talk." They both sat down, and Ger started. "About yesterday, I think it shouldn't have happened. I love Quinn, and I don't want to hurt him. I honestly don't know what I was feeling in that moment, but
It can't happen again. He sighed and looked at Zan. I don't want to lose you either. I still want to be here for you, if that's even possible. I just hope we can try. He stood up, ready to leave, but before he reached the door, Zan grabbed his arm and said gently, Wait, you haven't heard what I have to say. Jur paused, his back still turned. Zan spoke calmly. For what it's worth, we're on the same page. Yesterday was a mistake. I got carried away and tried to use you to make myself feel better. That was wrong. I'm sorry. Jur turned to face him. It's okay. He stepped forward and wrapped Zan in a hug. Are we gonna be okay? Zan asked quietly. Jur hugged him tighter and said, I don't know, but we can try to be. Zan clung to him and said honestly, I hope we can. You're the only one on this ship who seems to give a damn about me, and I really need that.